Hi again. In Three Worlds, Plan of Redemption, we're at page 160. Barbour has just been discussing the 2300 days of Daniel, chapter 8. Now he's discussing Revelation 16 in a subsection entitled The Eastern Question. What is that? The Eastern Question, from a Bible standpoint, is based mainly on Revelation 16:14. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the waters thereof were dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. And I saw three unclean spirits, like frogs, come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. For they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of that great day of God Almighty. Here we learn that before the beginning of the gathering of the kings of the east and of the whole world to that battle, the waters of mystic Euphrates must be dried up. Hence, in order to interpret correctly these events, the first question to settle is who or what are the waters of the Euphrates? The generally accepted interpretation is that they refer to the Mohammedans. We would say Muslims. But I think we shall be able to overthrow this view, which is based solely on the accepted fact that the Ottoman Empire is referred to under the sixth trumpet as the four angels bound in the river Euphrates. But by a reference to page 138, it may be seen that although admitting the four angels bound in the great river Euphrates refer to the Mohammedans, a far more reasonable interpretation of the Euphrates can be found. The Greek, here rendered in the Euphrates, is one out of 14 different words translated in. And in Revelation 1:7, the same word, epi, is rendered because of, shall wail because of him. The word is also rendered before Pontius Pilate, before 2 or 3 witnesses, etc. The four angels bound because of, or before the great river Euphrates is clearly the true rendering here. For the application of the Euphrates to the Christian nations is in harmony with every part of the prophecy. This, of course, sets Barbour and Russell against the majority of commentators. If the four angels who were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year for to slay the third part of men refer to the Mohammedans, that in which or because of which they were bound cannot refer to themselves. And it is a well-known fact it was the Christian powers who held the Mohammedans in check so long as they were held, and that it was the decay of the Roman power which enabled them, that is the Mohammedans, at last to possess themselves of that third of the empire now called Turkey in Europe. If they were bound because of the great river Euphrates, and when from internal strife the Christian powers could no longer oppose them, the four angels were loosed and immediately possessed themselves of Constantinople and the east. To what can the waters of the Euphrates refer, if not to the Christian nations? Certainly no one can be so simple as to suppose the Mohammedans bound themselves. Literal Babylon was built upon literal Euphrates, and is thus spoken of, O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come. That's Jeremiah 51 verse 13. And of mystic Babylon it is said, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great harlot that sitteth on many waters. Revelation 17:1. When Cyrus dried up the waters of the Euphrates by turning the river from its channel, in accordance with the prophecy of Jeremiah 50 verse 38, a drought is upon her waters, and they shall be dried up. Babylon fell, and God has chosen to make literal Babylon a type of Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. And the waters which thou sawest, where the harlot sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. That's Revelation 17 verse 15. And as the drying up of the literal Euphrates was the immediate cause of the fall of ancient Babylon, so the drying up of the waters of mystic Euphrates is the prelude to the fall of mystery Babylon the Great. Mystic Babylon never was supported by the Mohammedans. Hence, the drying up of their power could have no relation to her fall, while the drying up of the power of the Christian nations would necessarily cause her downfall. Again, the waters of Euphrates are to be dried up to prepare the way of the kings of the east. And the kings of the east are mostly Mohammedans. In Ezekiel 38, where the prophecy of the gathering to this great battle is found, he names Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya as a part of those who come to the battle. And these nations are the very ones now occupying Egypt, Palestine, and the east. And all these nations are Mohammedans. But the great battle does not occur until after the return of the Jews, and they are to dwell safely in unwalled villages in the land that is brought back from the sword in the mountains of Israel. And that's from Ezekiel 38, verses 11 and 14. Then Togarmah of the north parts, which possibly means Russia, and Gomer and many people, and Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, are to come up against my people Israel as a cloud to cover the land. It shall be in the latter days, and I will bring thee against my land, that the heathen may know me, when I shall be sanctified in thee, O Gog, before their eyes. Ezekiel 38, verse 16. How then can Russia fill this prophecy? By coming up against the Mohammedans, since it is against my people Israel that they are to come. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. Well, this is very much in keeping with what most evangelicals believe about these prophecies in Revelation and Ezekiel, but it's certainly not what the modern Watchtower has taught since the days of J.F. Rutherford. But it was then. They took these passages quite literally, and I would say justifiably so. Rutherford, though, was of a different spirit. There can only be one people of God, and we know who that is. I'll link to one of the passages that rocked us out of the Watchtower. I think the title of it is something like The Earthquake That Shook Two Jehovah's Witnesses Out, based on Zechariah 14, which he quotes here. I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, which is actually in Zechariah 12 as well as Zechariah 14.